evening, everyone, and welcome to Norwood City Council's Community Economic Development and Community Engagement Committee. Tonight, we are going to cover three topics. One is our welcome experience to Norwood. We're going to do that piece of it around our website first. We have two components of that. One is an audit that was prepared by Council Member Eric Thompson. He's not with us tonight, but we've got his remarks to include. And then the other component of that is we have a presentation from the Linus Company. They've recently developed some platforms, both, they'll tell us about platforms that support municipalities' online presence, web presence. We're going to talk about the welcome bag experience in collaboration with the Inclusion Action Team from the Quality of Life planning process. And then we're going to double back to the Community Reinvestment Area Agreement process and all the players with that. So we'll talk through that with the Law Department. I think this is going to be a fun night. It's definitely a cozy night. It's warm in here for you all at home. I hope you're warm too. All right, so we're going to have Kenny and Jeff come on up and share with us what you got.
Thank you. As Leslie mentioned, my name is Kenny Likens, and this is Jeff Blomer.
Oh, you know what? Sorry, just one moment. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
I was gonna say, can you move your computer right over here? Chat from there.
Or
Could they just take a microphone?
How do you feel about holding a mic?
That's
I don't
fine.
know if that cord will reach far enough. We'll find out.
If not, we can move this a bit closer.
He can sit there too.
Oh, that might be a very much. I apologize. All of our setup time.
Can you pull those cords up a little bit?
You can also push
Right
the
head.
podium forward a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah. Okay, I think we're...
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, great.
Thank you very much for your help on that one.
All right, so as Leslie mentioned, my name is Kenny Likens, and this is Jeff Blomer. We created a service called Talink, and we're going to be thrilled to talk to you about that today. So you might be asking yourself, what in the world is Talink? Well, Talink, it's a service that brings citizens and governments together by providing custom-made mobile and web applications for towns and their communities. Now, with the Talink application staying informed and up to date with the latest events, updates, and news for your community has never been easier. We also provide a simplified ticketing system that allows residents to report and discuss important civic issues, anything from road closures, trash management, crime, and more. So I got some statistics here for you. With over 70% of all Americans owning a smartphone or a tablet, the demand for mobile applications is at an all-time high. Talink helps local governments tap into this market by providing a digital infrastructure that not only streamlines solutions for civic issues, but also, like I said, provides the latest events for your town, community, and university. That's another market we're trying to tackle in the future. Talink is built on three principles. It needs to be multi-platform, meaning it's available on iOS and Android devices. We also provide web platforms, so this can be accessed by any web browser and any web browser that you choose. With Talink, it's also built upon a dedicated server. Anytime you build an application that deals with the internet, you're going to have a safe and secure data source, and ours is top-notch. It's very secure and fast and reliable. It's also scalable, so it can handle a lot of data inquiries, which is pretty much questions that you ask a database to bring back data. And last but not least, it is built for your community. Right now, you'll see everything is blue with the Talink logos. This allows us to custom make applications for your town. It's going to have your branding, your colors, you name it. So today we are going to demo the process of submitting an issue for users and also show how admins or government officials can handle that issue request. You ready?
Let's do it.
So Jeff's going to pop in here.
All right. So, I have to type and hold. So for our first demo that we're going to do, we're going to basically simulate what a snow day may look like for Norwood City Schools. So the first thing you would do is, we're currently on the admin web app as we see here, we can just show more features than what you would get on the user app, but the user app's going to look pretty much exactly the same. So as we see here, we can add an image. So you just hit the select image button and you find your image. We already have it loaded here, but we see we have it added. We put in our title. So we just have, it's a snow day, with some little snowflake emojis here. And then we have all the different schools, the Norwood City schools that are going to be closed. We have all that added, and all we have to do is hit add update. Our update has now been added, and here we can go over to the updates, and here we have it, our snow day. We see this would be available to anybody who has a TownLink app, and they will get a push notification even on their phone if they have the app downloaded that there's been a snow day, all the schools are closed.
Yep. And as Jeff was mentioning, as he posted that, I got a push notification. I can simply open up our TownLink mobile app that I described earlier. The first update is, it's a snow day. So every resident that has this application downloaded will instantaneously receive a push notification with that data. So now we're going to go into detail about how a user might submit an issue, okay?
You can put it on there.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to put it on the laptop here so we can see it in the big screen. So I'm just going to pull this up real quick. So just pull this up. We're going to see, oh God, don't want to see that.
You connected the phone
Yeah,
and then went to QuickTime and it pulled in your camera?
Yes.
yeah. It pulls up mine first, but now we've got it up, so it's
Okay.
his.
All right. So if a user is having a iOS application or a phone, they're going to get this application. When you open it up, the first screen you'll see is important events, updates, your directory, contact. All this information can be added by the admins on the admin dashboard, which Jeff demonstrated where he added the snow day. Here's the important issues that are in the town. Each issue has an issues detail page. And also has a discussion where residents can discuss this issue in more detail. Road closures are also shown. Gives you a direct map of where that road closure is, at. So now we're going to go into detail how simple it is for a user to submit an issue. So I'm going to have Jeff add this.
So let's say
Trees.
a tree fell down in front of the Norwood Community Building. It's terrible. What a tragedy. So we will have Norwood Community Building tree down. And then we just put a description. I think our title pretty much got that, but let's just say tree fell in front of the Norwood Community Building. Of the Norwood Community Building. So,
And the next piece is very beneficial. Hopefully it works here. I'm connected to 3G, so don't have too much good service here, but it might work.
with just this tap of a button using your location services on your phone, you can add the current location just like that. It goes straight through the GPS on your phone, and then we can choose the category that's under. We'll choose landscaping since the tree is down. And now we pick our picture from the library, and we have
Lots of cat pictures.
so we have our picture added. All we have to do is hit submit issue. We've submitted our issue.
Yep.
And then we go to
My issues.
My issues. And there it is.
So as you can see, right now when you first submit an issue, it's in a pending state. That's because a user or an admin hasn't touched that issue. This prevents people from putting fake issues out there, just spamming the data, the database. So now Jeff's going to go actually log in as an admin. We're going to assign that issue to a work group, and these work groups are configured by you. You can add as many or as little as you want. And we also have priorities, which means that issue needs to be completed in so many days. These are also customized.
So we'll go back to the admin app here on the website, and then we go to pending, and we have our issue right here. So now we can assign, or it's already been assigned to the landscaping work group, and now we can set the priority. So is it a low priority issue where it doesn't have to be done in the next day or two? Maybe it can wait a few days. So let's say it will be a medium priority, and then
Sign up there.
we hit assign right here.
And since I'm configured in the landscaping group, I got a push notification saying, hey, you have been assigned this issue. Let's go ahead and put it back on the phone. So the issue has been submitted, it's been assigned. Now it's time for a city worker, to work that issue. And this is how we're going to do this. We're going to launch the admin application. Here's all the issues that are currently assigned to me with a priority. Jeff mentioned this is a medium priority. I'm going to come in here and click it.
This is nice. I like it.
I'm going to say, tree has been removed. Exclamation point. Resolve issue. Your issue has been marked resolved. Since I submitted the issue, I also got a push notification that says, hey, it's been resolved. That is now sent to the discussion where people might be discussing this issue. It says, hey, your issue ID has been resolved. If you have any further issues, contact us with this issue ID. And this is where it gets fun.
So one of the big toys that we have that we wanted to show off for you guys is this is viewable from the user website as well.
We'll show them the website.
So yeah, we can go home real quick first and show you the overview. So you just have all these boxes that just say how many pending issues there are right now, how many assigned, how many have been resolved, road closures, updates, upcoming events, and then a directory page that can have like important phone numbers and contact information for different city officials.
Which you can add on the fly.
Yeah. So our biggest toy that we like to play with is if you hit this issue map down here, and here we can see any issue that has been, since we're on the admin page, any issue that has been assigned or hasn't been assigned yet. We get a live map of where all of them are located with their GPS information that you selected and inputted with that little button that said add information or add your location. So we can come down here, and any of these little map markers can be clicked on, and you get a pop-up that shows all the important information on them, like if you hit the details page on the individual issue. So you have the issue ID, when it was submitted, the time it was submitted, what work group it's been assigned to, its status, the priority, the deadline, which is pretty much linked to the priority, then a little description saying what this issue is, and that all have been input by the user.
So since we resolved the last issue, it's not going to appear right here. We will just submit a new issue real quick. Once the issues are resolved, it goes to a work pool.
Yeah, if we put up another issue, it'll pop up as soon as we refresh the page.
Go ahead and refresh it. Are we good on time?
Yes.
Great.
So
It's set to Hamilton because that's where I currently live.
we just come down here. Oh, look, there we are. In Norwood, our test issue that we just submitted a couple seconds ago, it's right there.
As you can tell, it's still in a pending status. There's no priority, no deadline, no, well, there's a description. If we come over here let's go to the other one, we'll show them the details. This one has,
This is the one lane closed in each direction currently on Galbraith Road right now, right by the I-75 on-ramp.
so I was testing that one earlier. Let's go to one over here.
Where's that? On the legend.
There we
So
go.
we have the legend down here in the bottom right-hand corner. If you click on one of these, down here they're numbered, and then we click on one of those, that just bounces straight to the location of that current issue.
Okay. Let's go ahead and show them a dashboard.
So for the admins, this will basically make your life a whole lot easier. If you want to keep statistics on the different certain types of issues that have been reported, like road closures, or maybe there's been a lot of there's been a lot of lost dogs. You know, you can keep track of all this through the dashboard on the admin website. So we have the different number of road closures, those number of updates, the number of events that have been put in, and the number of directory contacts as well. Then we have the number of each one right above these different boxes. Then we have a graph that shows the different categories, how many issues have been submitted, how many have been resolved. Basically just all broken down here. And then we have a reporting graph down here of the issues that aren't meeting their deadlines for when they've been submitted with the different priorities.
Yep.
So if you click on each of these boxes, it'll take you straight to their page. And that's the updates one.
So yeah, let's go to the updates one more time. So say I'm a parent, you know, I just got the push notification about this snow update. Let's hold that for 1 second. I'm going to comment, as a parent, my kids will be thrilled. Let's go ahead and hit discussion here. There's my comment. This is how your community can interact with these discussion pages.
Can I ask a question about that?
Of course.
When discussions happen, do they just create a queue that's ordered by time?
Yes, as of now. But,
Okay.
you know, this is just a demo application. Whenever we onboard new communities, we always take their, you know, feedback into consideration.
Okay.
So a question for
Yeah.
you too. I mean, can discussions be disabled? Or
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And then are admins able to moderate them, like
Yes.
if there's Nazi stuff or something?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. You could easily come in here. I think it's in here. It's actually on the mobile app at the moment. But yes, you can flag those and delete them.
Okay.
Yep. Let's go ahead and show them one more thing.
Mhm.
Let's go to the admin page and go to work groups.
So we have these.
So inside our work groups, this is how you will, you know, create new work groups. Say you want to make a specific work group for snow plows. You know, certain places need to be plowed. You can just easily go in here and put snow plows. Type that for
So
it.
a group would essentially function as the type of reporting?
Right, the party that's responsible for resolving that issue. Work groups are not mandatory. You know, you can just have, it just opens the possibilities up for your community.
So I guess, so one of the things we've discussed, it would be nice to have a feature on the website that allows us to report things.
Yes.
And we discussed using the language of like a form where
Yep.
people could put something in. But I think what I hear you saying, so for instance, our public works oversees our snow removal. I think you're saying this app could function in a way that if there was a snow group, work group, or snow removal work group rather, that could be managed by that group of workers.
Yes.
Okay.
And each user has a, I'll show you exactly how that's set up if you don't mind going to users. Go to configuration.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. This is where you assign users to different work groups. Down here is all the users that are currently assigned to it. Please excuse Donkey Kong there. That was just a test user I created. Above that are the work groups that you can assign to them. Say John Doe is doing snow plows. You can assign him to that snow plow work group. Come summertime, he's responsible for cutting grass. You know, assign him to that work group as well.
Okay. I think before Mr. Bonsall gives his questions, I think we're ready to ask a few questions.
Absolutely.
Was there anything else that you wanted to show before you close out the demo portion?
There is a reporting page that you can do. Say if you have to do audits, or you want to get a recap of the different types of.
Okay, so there's more analytical support.
Yes, absolutely. There's
Okay.
a lot tucked underneath here.
Okay, thank you. I think
welcome.
this gives us a pretty good view of the
Yeah.
capability, and so would like to go ahead and ask you a couple more questions. Go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so can the users that are assigned to work groups, is there two different variations, like maybe like an admin that actually like can edit the issues coming in, and then maybe you have people on the ground actually doing the work that submits it, or is there only really one type of user that,
Right.
if you're assigned to that work group, you can process new intakes and then process the ones that are already out there?
Okay, so that's a good question. Right now, since it's a two-man crew, I'm set up on both, applications. I'm set up as an admin on the dashboard, and I'm also set up as that same admin on the admin application. But to answer your question, yes, different roles have functions to different applications.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
So I do have a couple of questions, and then since we do have some members of the public here, if you have any questions before we move off this topic, you'll feel free to ask in a moment. When this is utilized, is there personally identifiable information that's collected?
We keep it all secured. The only thing that we collect are emails. Passwords are encrypted, so we can't even see that. Admins can't even see that. We give the ability to sign in with an email and also Facebook to make things easier. Matter of a click, they can sign up with their Facebook account. All that data is secure.
Otherwise, in order to access this mobilely or via desktop, laptop, it is generated through an email, just
Yes.
like normal other apps.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
If, as I mentioned before, this is a demo. If you have the need to let users submit issues without necessarily having them create an account, that is also possible.
Okay.
So account isn't required. It's just nice to have to keep track of all your issues that you might have submitted.
Because with each account, as we saw, those issues, they have their own certain page. They can go visit their issues that they've submitted and see the status of them and whatnot.
And then I just have one more. Does this app, I know you said you can log in through using Facebook.
Yes.
Does it have the ability to pull in a municipality's Facebook or Twitter feed?
That is something that we definitely want to implement in the future. We
Okay.
don't have any real examples to demonstrate today, but everything you see here is just a mock screen. Right now we're using this as a latest update for updates that we produce, but you can honestly create, I'm trying to click this. You can honestly link this to a Facebook feed, a Twitter feed,
Okay.
you name it, directory. This can be easily clickable. Say you have a fire department, you add a fire department contact, click this if you want to call them, if you want to email them, simple as that.
Okay.
So social integration is definitely a big part of this.
Okay. Any questions?
I guess I'm impressed you got Donkey Kong in
Oh,
there.
yeah, for
That
sure.
was pretty impressive. It's pretty impressive. So you probably went over this when it comes to tech, things like this. I'm a little out of my league here. Mix this. You said something about the snow day. How does this go with when we're in partnership with the schools, with the city? So I believe you said that anybody can put. You have admins and you have. So somebody from the school can put in. We have a snow day, and then they can
Yeah.
approve it also. So you want to just speak on that a
You
little
want
bit?
to answer that one?
You can go for it.
Okay, so updates are automatically approved. It's an update. You want this to be seen by the public. You can give certain groups throughout the town the ability to do certain updates. If you want to give the schools the ability to, post an update about the snow days, you can do that as well. Or they can relay a message to someone here at the city council, and they
Okay.
can post it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they could have someone with an account just over at the schools, then they could just do it themselves.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Any questions?
I'm curious, how many communities have you done this for?
Believe it or not, we just got the application done within the last couple months. We've been polishing it up, and we've been trying to find a first town to adopt this. We're talking to a few other ones around the city, but we're more than happy and honored that Leslie invited us in to discuss this in person.
Okay. Let me ask just like the practical mechanics of this. So if somebody I got a problem, there's a tree down, there's a pothole. If you don't already know about this, the idea that you maybe go to the city's website, and there's a big thing on the report problems, and that then takes you to this, and you can report problems that way, or do you have to download the app to do that?
You may answer, Mel?
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I just repeat the question real quick? So the question is, how do you know to access this?
For sure.
To create a report in the first place.
So there's two ways to do it. When you get a Talent application, you can either host it on our own server. It'll be set up, for instance, norwood.talent.online. You can direct your users to there. The App Store will have an app, and also the Google Play will have an app. It'll be the community's responsibility to get that word out, through the means of social media. As for submitting issues, we can also embed, if we have access to your websites. I know you said you're going through a new process of doing that. Believe it or not, we do websites as well. Cough, cough. But we can implement a form on, like you were saying, submit issue, and it would mimic what this is, and it'll send it right to our database. Does that answer your question, sir?
To a certain extent, yeah, that you've
Okay.
got some idea, because I'm just, unless it will maybe be, to start with, maybe a couple hundred people that
Right.
actually have the app,
Mhm.
seriously. And so most of the people that have issues are not going to have it, are not going to think, oh, I better get that.
Exactly.
In case something comes up. So, and then I was curious on the tracking of the issue. Somebody reports a pothole, and I understand the admin can then assign it, and that, whether it's a crew member's cell phone or email, and I'm assuming it can be transferred over by email. Or given
As well,
an
yes.
email
Mhm.
as well. So this is assigned to, Greg Johnson to take care of. How much of that is on the public side of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Greg Johnson, he hasn't gotten to it. Does he have to then go and explain why
Exactly.
he's doing something else? That's what I'm curious. How much of that is
Can I
visible to the public?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'll repeat that as well. So two things. One was just I think a point of clarity that the directory does allow folks to be contacted by phone or email.
Yeah.
And then the other is when incidents are reported, is it on the public facing side, the amount of time that has gone by from the post to the resolution?
Great
Well,
question.
and if there's an individual person, whose job
And if
it's
it,
been assigned to, it's like, okay, they'll get to it, but they're off today.
I understand.
You know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
That's a great question. So as for the priority and the status, the only people that see that are the admins. So the users won't get offended saying, oh, the tree down in my front yard, that's a low priority, yet Billy's tree down in his yard is a high priority. Little do they know Billy's tree blocks the sidewalk, So we don't want people to get upset about that. The only people that see who it's assigned to, at the moment, this is set up to only show work groups that are assigned to that. We can also implement individual users or admins to be assigned to that. But as for what the residents see, they see only assigned issues, and they only see their issues. So pending issues will show if it's a user's own issue.
so when you say assigned, if I post that the tree is down if I post that the tree is down and someone else goes to that
Yeah.
work group, they would see Leslie said the tree is down and that it is assigned, but it won't say
Who
a
it's assigned
name
to.
of
Right.
who is assigned to that work group.
And that's one of the things we have to make the communication with the towns. If that's something a town would like to have listed, who's handling that, we can also, like you said, put a contact number, put an email. Hey, why hasn't this got resolved yet? But as of now, just the demo, the only thing users see are their own issues and assigned issues.
Is that helpful?
Make sense? But yeah, we can definitely, the data's there. It's just a matter of what you want the public to see.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, to me, this whole issue resolution thing, this is like the most powerful, or the issue submission. It's the most powerful part of the platform.
For
Just
sure.
The fact that you can submit them. There's a map for whoever at Public Works, or if somebody's submitting building code violations, they feel like there's something going on there. The building department can see a map of all the things that people have submitted. So
Exactly.
I find that part of it really interesting, and I'm sure that as you all, the price that you all have set up here, you all are price to sell. I have no doubt that you're going to get a community hooked very soon because it's only a $3,000 yearly charge
Yes.
and a $3,000 setup fee. So, yeah, I'm sure it'll be very soon. You'll be there, and I'm sure you're going to have more features you'll be adding as you
Yes.
go along. So that's exciting as well. So I just think it's a cool application, and I want to appreciate you all for being here.
Thank you.
and-
I want to add lastly, you brought up a good point. We're implementing a anonymous, type of issue. So if, you want to report a crime in the area, but you don't want everyone to see that, just say private, and, that will work. But yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for having us today. I appreciate it, and good luck with your future endeavors with your new website.
Thank you both for being
Thank you.
here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I probably-
Could you help him put the mic up? And then if you want to, I know you guys know your way around all of that.
Yeah.
If you just want to use that clicker to hit the power or off button.
Thanks for the good questions too. That was fun.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Do you have any extras of these? Or do you have this in a PDF?
We have
Yeah.
PDFs we can send you, but
I'd be glad to have like 2 more, and then if you want it to be PDF, that'd be great.
thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Okay, so that was, I think, inspiring, like different things about that. I would like to go ahead and spend a little bit of time thinking about the audit as well. So you have a one-page you have a piece of paper. It's 2-sided. This is a phase 1 and phase 2. Let's see if I can find mine as well. Should I edit?
Yep.
Thanks again for coming. Oh, I think I put it over at his seat. So, phase 1 and phase 2, phase 1 being minor changes to the current website, is intended to improve the user experience, bring content up to date. So we've talked a lot about trying to keep things accurate, up to date, more visually appealing. But phase 1 would just focus on what are considered minor. Phase 2, what Eric is recommending is a full site redesign. And part of where I was hopeful it would be good to not just have this discussion, but also have a demonstration so we could kind of imagine what redesign could mean. I think there's a lot of features that we don't have, and so sometimes it's hard to imagine what does full redesign mean. So what is expressed in this summary is not only the user experience, but added functionality and a visual refresh. So the functionality might include something like the ability to report online, something that's going on. So a different piece than what happens right now, at least as we've discussed, there may have been some changes recently that I'm not aware of, is we utilize consultants, vendors, if you will, who do update the website. It's not something that each department does. And so something that's being recommended in the phase 2 is that each department would have a role in keeping things up to date. That way there's no lag time between them communicating with a vendor or a contractor who then has to put it into their workflow to figure out when they can make updates to our website. So that's a component of what could be a phase 2. So I know we got these a little earlier today. So let's just take a moment and look just at phase 1, which is the half of the page. If there's anything that jumps out or you want to discuss regarding the homepage, departments or contacts, or news, or if anything here connects back to what we just saw, any ideas we might want to add.
Thank you.
Is there a
Thank you,
question?
Leslie. So my question
Comment?
is, looking at Eric's improvements here,
Mm-hmm.
is this in conjunction with, let's say we did go with Kenny and Jeff here and
Mm-hmm.
their Town Link. Let's say we employed them and had them look at our website. Are we looking at this with that, or is that going to just be the overhaul? It's going to be a new website, or that's going to add it to our website?
So that's a good question. So Before I was introduced to Town Link, I think we had agreed a new website would be helpful for the city.
Okay.
We have a resource already in terms of who we contract with to provide service. And I know Mr. Bonsal's been collecting quotes from other municipalities, and so we haven't yet to decide on who will make the updates. I think thus far we've done, this audit was the first step to kind of help us get clear on what do we want to recommend to council be the improvements we make. And instead of just talking about it in the abstract, this group was brought in to show us what some improvements could be.
Okay.
So that this is not a, we're going with this vendor at all.
Okay.
But what was shared during the presentation is that whatever our new website looks like, having an app could be a complement to the website.
Perfect. Thank you.
No, that's a great question. I think the two could make our conversation more robust.
Absolutely.
One thing that I think is really missing and would be a great opportunity is our homepage introducing our mayor. Right now, there's no welcome letter or welcome to our community, and I think that could be very helpful moving forward, that people would know this is the person who I guess technically, could happen after the new people arrive, but like, this is who is leading. I think that's a great call out for our homepage. Additionally, Eric's recommending that the departments and the contact page be combined. So anytime you visit a department page, it would have its contact information on it instead of a separate page. And then this is something I think might be worthy of some discussion. So as it relates to city news, we should only keep a news page if we plan on maintaining it. Which begs the question, who's going to maintain the news page? Events and notices, as well as community calendar information. We do have a calendar feature that's on the council website, which is separate from the city website. There is a calendar that is maintained through the online presence of the Norwood Star. And I believe individual groups that people might belong to, like on social media, also have event listings. So there's no one central place yet. I think the Star and as well as the library coordinating community events are two kind of gathering places. But part of our conversation previously had been centralized, absolutely, and something that you can find when you visit the city's webpage. And so I'm not sure if that means we have a back end that each department can go to as that also feeds in from community, or if we think we just don't want to manage that. But those are the thoughts included in phase one. So any other questions or comments on how should we handle a news page? And maybe any thoughts on how would we do that, as well as the calendar, community calendar piece. Yeah, James.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. So if we did a news page, I mean, I would imagine either the mayor's secretary or the secretary to the clerk of council would likely be asked to be tasked with updating it. I mean, to me, it seems like I think there's opportunity for the city to have a news page and have just, update every couple of weeks, have a couple of different things like what's going on or what's new, what's developing. And there could be one item from like something council's doing, and there could be an item for something like the city's doing overall. So like the new soft curbside recycling program, with simple recycling is an example of something that could have been on there. Sometimes we get updates on how the aggregation program's going, so about how much savings that the citizens collectively have had, and that could be something that could be added on there. So personally, to me, I think having a news page would be good. I think that we should try to talk to people to see who might be the best to keep it updated. Or it could even be the clerk in the senior center as well. So that person does quite a few newsletters already, so I think that she might likely be able to take some information she's already putting in newsletters and add it to the city website. So yeah, I would like to see something added, especially if it's just able to be updated by that person, so that we can work to get a access or a link to that person to be able to update it, they would probably feel more empowered to actually just keep it updated rather than having to constantly send emails to our consulting group or the vendor that currently does it. And then with regards to the departments and contacts, actually, I understand like why the recommendation is there, but I do think there's value in having a central page that has all the city phone numbers right there, lined up right there. So I know for me, when I use the contact us page, especially now that I've asked and it's been added, the 513 has been added to the numbers. So previously when you click the numbers, if you're on a phone, your phone wouldn't dial them because it just had 458 whatever. So now I asked TA to see if they can update it. It's been updated, so now when you click it, you can actually call somebody directly from the city, the website, which big improvement. So I like having it one page or the two different pages, but I can understand. I don't know his exact vision on that, so he might have a good reason to do that. So just a little feedback there. And then, sorry, let me get, if you don't mind, one more thing. So I fully intend to ask council when we redo the financial recovery plan, which I wanted to do it this year, but our financial supervisors would not let us update it this year. But we'll be updating it very early in the spring. We have to update it before March 25th, which is the date that it was updated previously. So in there, I fully intend to include, or to try to encourage council to include funding for the full redesign, for the phase 2 redesign. So we're looking at that. And then with that, we're looking at potentially getting like a .gov web address as well for that. So I really wanted Norwood.gov. So like when you relaunch the website, it's Norwood.gov. However, the branding standards for the federal government, who I think manages that .gov, you have to have the state designation as well. You can't just be Norwood.gov. And I was like, but we are the center of the universe. So actually asked TA, so I asked TA to submit it. I was like, TA, let's just see what they say. Let's just submit Norwood.gov, and see if it's available. And they came back and said it's not available for you.
Maybe we should crowdsource for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Say it again. What was the question?
I said maybe we should crowdsource for that.
Yeah, petition for Norwood.gov.
Well, that's not what I meant. We could petition. I meant to crowdsource in terms of ask people what they'd like for it to be called.
Yeah, because it could be, if we don't have to do the .gov thing, so we'll probably, because we can't get Norwood.gov, I'm less inclined to even change it. But if we could have got Norwood.gov, I'd say we have to do it. It would have just been awesome.
Were you able to get what are all the guidelines?
Yeah, we have a list of them, yeah. So
Okay.
of what it is. Essentially it's going to need to be Norwood.oh.gov, Norwood-oh.gov, Norwood-ohio.gov. Do you have a preference?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, there are so many cities across the country called Norwood.
I don't disagree, but we are the center of the universe here.
Wait.
and-
Yeah.
Do what?
Norwood in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I know that here's the thing.
Norwood.
It's not.
OH with an exclamation point. Oh, Norwood.
Yeah, you can't use exclamation
Norwood,
points in web addresses, but
That's
Norwood
a T-shirt
Yeah.
with an exclamation mark
Actually,
at
that's
the
great.
end.
That is-
Nice.
you could probably
Norwood O.
You could probably fundraise that, Lupe. You should do that. Norwood Service. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, you can make some money for the service league right there. So.
Okay.
but
so
But
we
back,
need-
sorry, I'll quickly finish there. So essentially, though, we have the option, like when we do launch the new website, do we want a .gov address? And so it's not going to be Norwood.gov, but we could choose to change it. The only thing is, if you do change it, then we've got to change. Okay, so we can change it, and then the other thing is, do we want to bring the police and fire department into us as well? They all have separate websites that have separate domain names. So, all of their email addresses are I think wkramer@norwoodpolice.org or whatever it is. And so, looking at the city of Cincinnati has all of them unified as one. So you have everybody in the police department, fire department, whatever, it's all at Cincinnati, I think -oh. I'm not sure, whatever their suffix is on there. So there's lots of opportunities when we do that phase 2 refresh, but the thing is we got to have money to do it. And so I think that it's a very important endeavor. And I think pretty much everybody at the city would agree that it's an important endeavor and that'd be a very justified expense to get that refreshed and get that done. But I'm glad that in the meantime that we do have some of these suggestions, and whatever I can do to help with those, I'm happy to do that.
I am glad for this conversation. I think that there's definitely a lot of potential. I'm happy to hear that funding for the fiscal recovery plan is something we'll be able to talk about as we make a new plan, the next plan rather, the next iteration of the plan. I think because we're getting ready to talk with an action group from the quality of life planning process, I'm also mindful that any branding could include what's been developed as the plan. Although it won't roll out until February, which could work well in terms of thinking through, do we need dollars, not just for a rebrand in terms of the technical side, but for a brand change? That could be really good conversation, maybe to plan for some of the 2019 meetings we have. The other thought that comes to mind is whether or not fire and police pages come in. I think it's a good time for council to explore bringing our own website into one experience with the city's website. Right now they're separate. And so whether it happens or not, I also think it's a good time to discuss that. So
Yep.
I look forward to revisiting this. Was there any other feedback from the public on the welcome experience as it relates to the website?
I would say a master calendar is huge.
Master calendar is
I mean,
huge.
It's one, and I'll just, my own personal experience, I'm on council, I'm on the recreation committee on council. I get a copy of the recreation commission's minutes every month. My son has played knothole and soccer, and nobody lets me know when signups are. Like, that's how bad it is. Like, when do you sign up for knothole? When's the sign up? When's the sign up for soccer? It's those levels of the most basic kinds of calendar issues that in Norwood are just hard to find, unless you know somebody, unless your neighbor is into something like that. It's like you want to go someplace and find, when's the sign up for this? What programs does recreation have? When is lead pickup? When is, all these kinds of things that, well, Leslie, you mentioned, I think the last council meeting, it's like a master calendar for what meetings are going on in council chambers. You know what I mean? When is this meeting happening? Is it not happening? Do the notice went out, but not everybody gets that. How do I find out?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. There's 100 things that go on, and figuring out when they are is one of the hardest things it is to do. Winter school, when school registration, when is spring break. I mean, there's 100 different things to be included in that. And I understand the idea of everybody finding it all into one, funneling it into the one page, but having a page that at least has some of the basics that the city is doing should be,
Yep.
it shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
I agree, because there have been a lot of events or things around town that I had no idea about, and I wouldn't even know where to find out that information, and the event has passed. I'm like, oh my goodness, I would have wanted to.
Yeah.
Right.
To go there, where's that information at? That's like, that's huge. That's
Yeah.
like a citywide event. I'm finding that information at.
So
So I agree, Central Point, every meeting that I've been in, since I've been a resident since 2013, at the Community Coalition meeting that day of Locust Heads, to the NOW meeting of Norwood Ohio Wellness, it's always centralized.
yeah.
And there's been tech problems just setting up the calendar, but if we're redoing kind of the architecture of the page, then it should be pretty easy to do.
So just so that folks who are at home can chat with us, some of the comments that are being made have to do with how important a master calendar is. Even for people who are involved, whether on council or in sports events, they may not be notified of important things like when are sign-ups for an event or for a program. I've heard that as well, and I think that's a really critical distinction. It sounds, to me anyway, it seems like if the city is going to pursue having a calendar, it should definitely include all of city activities, like what goes on through the rec center, et cetera, and could potentially include other types of events. But it seems like if a calendar goes on the city website, it should at least cover everything the city is doing. Was there another comment?
You hit on several things that I was going to mention. I've lived here for over 26 years, and when we first came here, it was like everybody knew what was going on, and there was no place for us to find this information. We'd stumble on it,
Yeah.
and by that time it was too late to sign up my son to play basketball or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think right now the climate is such that we are getting a lot more newcomers coming in. Longtime residents have moved out because of age or whatever. You know, a lot of the homes have a lot of steps.
Yeah.
So, but I think having that master calendar under each area, like youth sports, council meetings, civic and fraternal groups, events. I think they usually have it, like, for instance, the American Legion group always has on Veterans Day an event at the park, at Victory Park. Some people, I still hear people say, "What's going on over there? I have no idea."
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just a way of informing people so they become more engaged.
Yes, I also hear you saying that the next comment was that a master calendar could help with word of mouth and driving that interaction amongst new residents too. So I'm taking note of this. I'm sure we'll have more discussion as a committee. I hope we'll have more discussion with all of council so that whatever the redesign entails, we do have a central place for at least city activity so that those of us who live here know what's going on. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to transition us. I'm going to actually ask Adrian Jackson and Lupe Hoyt to come on up. If you would sit up this way where there's a mic, that would be helpful. And we're going to go ahead and move our conversation specifically into the welcome bag. And so while these ladies are coming up, I just want to remind everyone at home, there have been 6 action teams that have been working over the last 3 months, I believe. I think since August, however many months that is, to develop a plan for the priority areas that have surfaced during the quality of life planning process. And so this topic is going to allow us to chat with members of the inclusion action team, specifically about the welcome bag experience. There are several goals this committee has, but this experience is also aligned with the goal this council committee has, and so we wanted to discuss it in support of the upcoming showcase of what's been planned and prioritized amongst the action group. So if you want to start by just introducing yourself, what the team has worked on, and then we can walk through those questions about the bag experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Primarily, the inclusion group, as part of the Quality of Life project, has focused on the welcome package as our priority, our initial project. Several other projects include different multicultural events.
Can you pull that just a little closer so folks
Okay.
can hear you?
Sure,
Thank you.
no problem. Is
It's
that
rough
better?
when you're at home. I bet that's probably fine.
Is
Yeah.
that okay? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. The welcome package, welcome bag, is to welcome new residents to Norwood. We assume that the Norwood Perception Action team would also be able to provide good information about what we would want to see in that bag.
Perception was another work group.
Another work group within
Okay.
the Quality of Life project, yes. So what do we want people to know about Norwood? Who can contribute a positive perception? And we said the perception group, our inclusion group, and your name came up, Leslie, your committee came up as well as a resource for finding information out about what we want to include in that because of the Wyoming welcome package that you had already secured from a realtor. And we've had an opportunity to look through the bag that you gave us and from Wyoming, and it's awesome. We really like it a lot. Additionally, we wanted to include maybe some basic toiletries that a new resident might need, maybe a gift card to La Rosa's or different types of businesses. We made a short list of
of some businesses in the area that might be able to contribute to some items, some basic items that a new resident might need. As far as assembling the package, we thought that the community group of youth at the students that need community service, they always need community service hours. They could assemble the package, maybe church groups, a missionary group, potentially. And another question we had was how do we find out about the new move-ins? And we mentioned something about the water, through the water department. Sally, I believe, someone named Sally, that's the key person there in that department, I believe.
I don't remember the staff person's name,
Okay.
but the water department is the department we had talked about.
Okay. Now, would they be a good source for renters and homeowner information? We were trying to figure out how that would all work. That was a question.
Yeah. Do you want to go through these one by one, or do you want to keep running through your list?
Just one other thing I
Sure.
wanted to mention was we had decided within the quality of life group to have block captains to participate and assist in different initiatives. So they would be involved with distribution and assisting in also keeping an ear and eye out for new residents and different things.
This is great.
Yeah.
Was that the whole list?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
So I want to do a little bit of recap. We touched on some of those very questions. We don't have all answers, and so I thought this is going to be great for us to be able to discuss, because while we are a committee of council and think it's important for residents to have this, I don't think we are the right engine to make it keep going. And so I was really excited to hear that this came up amongst residents. I thought, great, there are other people who think this is a good idea too.
Yeah.
So what I'd shared with the action team is the letter our committee sent out to the Norwood Chamber of Commerce. So one of our first learnings was the city of Wyoming produces this bag, having solicited from local businesses things to put in the bag. It definitely includes city information, the city newsletter, there's a map, et cetera, but businesses provide items, magnets, calendars, snow scrapers, coupons, what have you, so that when a resident is identified, a new resident is identified, they can be greeted and welcomed. So as a process step, the city of Wyoming utilizes the initiation of a new water account. And so depending, in Wyoming, renters would fall in that bucket too, to answer your question.
Okay.
There are some Norwood stakeholders I've talked to who are property owners in Wyoming who were telling me, hey, I remember that funny story. One of their tenants said, I just moved in and I saw the police coming over and I thought, oh no, I've broken some Wyoming rule I don't know about. What that tenant of a property which is owned by a Norwood stakeholder did not know is, while the water department says, oh, we've got to get a new bag for Leslie because she's renting now in Wyoming, that I didn't know, or that person didn't know, the police department actually delivers them to say, welcome to the community. So that was like good insight, funny story, but good insight to think about. So how do they get delivered? So our city is a little bit different. I think where we might have a gap in terms of process is being able to get to individual tenants in a building. So the water department would generate accounts for properties. And so if a property had many tenants, we wouldn't necessarily get to them. And so when you mentioned block captains, I was glad to hear that again too, because a person knowing, oh, there's a new resident on my street would be another way to work through that. So something we can do is actually continue to think through what is the process.
Right.
Water department could definitely be an option. There is a housing group and those realtors who are involved in creating that one pager,
Right.
helping market the city, they might be another resource, especially if the property is being sold and then used to house renters. That might be another way to take note. They're new residents, even if there's not a new water bill directly for them. That's something we can talk more about. I'm curious, are there other ideas if there's not a new water account associated with new residency? How might we find them other than the water department or a block captain?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you could find them through the landlords as well. So
Find them through the landlords as well. That's great.
as a landlord myself, I would welcome this kind of initiative because the more that my tenants feel connected and engaged in the community, the longer they're probably likely to stay with me as a tenant. So I think this is good stuff, and I would be, as a landlord myself, I'd be willing to for sure help out to either deliver the bags myself to the tenants or to let you all know that there's a new tenant there so you can let them know.
As a previous property manager of 8 years, we didn't have to report to the city when tenants moved in and out. So,
Okay.
And I personally had a welcome bag for the new residents that
So
that
you-
moved in, but
okay.
yes, that would be just as easy. Yes.
Speaking of new residents, we have a home next door to ours where there was a very elderly couple. Even the husband had grown up there with 10 siblings, and it has been purchased by a family coming in from Liberty Township to move to Norwood. And I thought that was amazing. So oftentimes the migration has been going north instead of coming back south. And I think having a welcome packet in time for them, they haven't moved in yet. They've been doing some remodeling work on the interior. But it would be wonderful to have something. I don't know what the time frame is on getting it all together, but just to let them know all the opportunities, the amenities in Norwood, the seasonal activities as well. We have Norwood Day Parade, for
Right.
instance.
This is where the discussion about the website kind of dovetails. So as a committee, and I think some of the action groups talked about this too. How do we create a mobile experience? How do we create like a static experience? And then actually like an experience like a block party or something to welcome people. So
Right.
I'm in agreement with you, Lupe, around notifying new residents about annual events per se.
Right.
There's a couple other things that I wanted to talk about in terms of how do we find these folks. But then really wanted to try and make sure this conversation centers on the creation of the bag. I think having the concept and the process is great, but we actually need to get these things rolling, or at least try and see if we can. So, James, just to go back to what you said you would like to be notified. Letter, phone call, like what does notification mean to you? That this is an opportunity for you to support residents.
I'd say, I mean, for me personally, I guess letters are going to be the easiest to do quickly and to reach a lot of people. On the Hamilton County Auditor's website, though, landlords, their phone numbers on there as well. So that's a potential. I mean, either of those, I would say, are good ways to reach out. And not all landlords are going to be, I mean, I know that we know this, but, not all landlords are going to be receptive. Not
Right.
all landlords really care all that much, and that's unfortunate. But there are a lot of good landlords in Norwood, and there's a lot of good people that live in Norwood that are really making their properties nice and really care about the community. And I think those are the people that you're going to see are going to absolutely want to jump onto this. Because,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's helpful for us all here and keep in mind, because there's some steps before we can actually do the bag delivery. So a couple other questions I heard you ask, and just want to share kind of where we're at in what we've communicated thus far to the Norwood Chamber. So we thought the Norwood Chamber would be a partner, could be a partner in this effort, because there are businesses here who are members, and we thought this could be a good value add to the members through the process of being a member. So the letter that we sent to the chamber was asking, would you promote to your members the opportunity to partner with us to make our vision a reality, like our committee wanting to have this bag? We specifically said, These are some initial suggestions. Members could purchase logo space on a reusable bag. And so there were many, I don't know, hundreds of bags that were given out at the parade this last year to help encourage, hey, here's a vision for Norwood. If the bag itself were going to continue, we've asked members of the Chamber of Commerce, would you consider helping fund that? That was grant funded, that was one-time funds. It was not city funds, just to be clear. But if that were going to continue, the bag itself would need to be purchased. And so members donating branded items for the bag, that was another request that we sent along. That could be things that companies already use when marketing what they do. So if a company already did a Frisbee, for instance, and said, like, this is how we market our heating and air or whatever, then could they give the city so many to give out on their behalf? Right. The other ask was that members would actually distribute bags to new employees and at Norwood events, like the parade. So it wouldn't just be this group thinking about how to get the word out there. Right. So that was the ask that we put out there. And just to provide clarity, so in a previous, I believe, regular meeting, maybe it wasn't in a regular meeting, the chamber did respond. We sent a letter, they responded back through the clerk of council office, and I thought we messaged that out, but in case we didn't, they said they would share that out with the members. I think I made the assumption that that meant they were sharing the request we had already sent. That did not happen.
Oh, okay.
And so what we have an opportunity to do, well, I was really glad for the timing of this discussion coming up on the showcase, is to think about specifically, in addition to inviting membership, which could help actually sustain the process, what are the specific things that have since been brainstormed? So do we want to specifically add in our next communication gift cards, moving items, or new homeowner items to what you were just sharing, Adrian? So that's something we can be more clear about. So when you all have been discussing, were there other examples of things you wanted to include beyond gift cards or basic items for new residents?
That's all the notes that I had.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say like a small business directory, but sometimes businesses change and close or whatever, or new ones come in and they're not included. So
Yeah.
maybe something online.
Digital.
You know, I know I was always looking for things, and I ended up asking around folks at church. That was my directory.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying. I think maybe then what could be a resource is that we actually invite the chamber to maybe put a flyer in or something to that effect. I mean, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, currently the Norwood City website has a link to the Norwood Chamber of Commerce's website.
I've been on the chamber board before, and one of the things that I think would really be helpful is if you had one or two people come and talk about what this quality of life, the whole thing is all about, to engage them. Many of them are business people who are here in Norwood, and some of them are not. And I just think having the group come and explain what it is, because otherwise it goes like that telephone game where you tell the director to tell the members. They may or may not hear it or listen. They may be talking with someone else and they miss it.
Sure.
So I mean, so I think having we could put an article in their News Digest, which comes out bi-monthly. You could also have that followed up, or have it that same month, that a speaker from this quality of life group go and speak for about 20 minutes or so. We've had them talk a little longer, but 20 minutes or so. And then they can do Q&A.
I will definitely share those back with the committee, the steering committee for the quality of life. I'm not sure if they've tried to do that already or not. I will speak for this committee. We did invite the executive director to come to our committee meeting,
Right.
and we did invite a board member to come. It didn't work
She
out
manages, like,
schedule-wise.
6 chambers.
Yeah, so
She's
so
really
we've
busy.
made those requests this committee has made that request to actually try and communicate this in person. So the letter was definitely a secondary option. I am committing to making sure we communicate this back. So there is a physical PDF that goes to the executive director, who can then forward that out to all of their members. And I'll also make sure that to share the suggestion that the steering committee for quality of life share with the chamber as well. So I think the assembly steps make a lot of sense as well. So you raise questions or suggestions around maybe students who need community service or churches might be a part of that. One of the things we discussed was who would be the owner of the process. So I think we all believe it's great. Maybe council would resolve, we're always going to do a welcome bag to welcome people into our city. You know, that isn't something that I personally think a committee can sustain. And so part of what we maybe just raised questions about was like, who could own it? Is this a process that a group would own to keep the inventory? Or at least have a 2-week period where, you know, we're going to get all the stuff we need for 2 weeks, make bags, and then these different distribution sites have so many bags for a period of time. And that's something I don't know if you've talked about, but would love to hear any ideas you have.
The block captain we mentioned as far as housing
Okay.
inventory was just one of the ideas that we had at the time. Other group we mentioned.
I'm sorry?
Housing bags, do you remember any other group that we mentioned?
What other group?
Housing. Were there any other groups that we mentioned housing the bags, keeping the inventory? Yes.
No, I don't have
That's
my
all
notes
that
with me right now.
That's all that
I think we had also suggested that, at least for the businesses, to get stuff here initially, potentially having it taken to the clerk of council's office. And so what I think might be a good next step, and I'd love to get James and John's input too, if you have any. I will redraft this, including the process steps we just discussed, but really try and focus on the ask. Is there a business who wants to donate something? Since it's for the showcase initially, would either of you want to be that contact? Do you want it to just still encourage a connection to the clerk of council and then we contact you? I think from an organizational level, this committee can still do that type of communication, but I just want to be as clear as possible on how does it get from a request to you have what you need at the showcase.
I think one of us would be better.
I'm sorry?
I think one of us would be better
Yeah.
to move it along because we're all in this room busy, so we want to be able to budget our time such that we're able to make the connections with the organizations and businesses in Norwood to get what we need for the prototype
Okay.
in time.
So
So to be able to
My
move
time
that
is
forward.
fairly flexible, and I know I can devote at least 2 hours, even a day, you know.
So we wouldn't mind being the point of contact for.
Yeah.
do you have a question or comment, John?
A couple comments maybe. You mentioned help with the process as far as building. I guess you've already. Scouts would be a good resource if you needed help. Say, you know, there's a lot of Eagle Scouts that needs a lot of time, community time. The Honor Society with the school, that's another resource that they're always needing to fulfill hours for their requirements. So they would probably be a great resource if you have to. You need to help. The other thing that come to mind is being a landlord myself. When you have someone moving from one part of Norwood to another part of Norwood, we're talking about new residents to be getting these bags and not say, I have a you know, a family that moved in. They live here, but they moved in. So that's just another thing that come to mind. We're talking new residents or
Into transition, transporting into the city
Sure.
for the first time.
yes.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thanks for your time. I appreciate people that give their time up for this kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Dustin, do you have any sense, like, of numbers? Like, how many people do you think in a given year?
That's a good question. That's a good question. You got the data?
We have 4,550 renters and 4,164 owners based on the census data 2012 through 2016. Yeah. The last time I looked at the Norwood Star online, I pulled up that housing report to look at new, like home sales or real estate. I didn't know from looking at it. Well, maybe I do know from looking at it. I'm pulling up the current one on the website is September. So to answer the question, let's see here. Here are all the stats. Oh, I guess it is broken down that way. There were 5 multi-unit properties sold. And there were 28 single-family homes sold.
In September? Yeah, I'm just wondering if you had a sense, like, either from the water departments, or what is the number of new accounts issued?
New accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between we're gonna pass out 150 this year, and we're gonna pass out 1,500.
Exactly. Like,
Exactly.
we don't know. So we're going to test and improve this. But I do think we do have data on water accounts. We have lots of data on water accounts.
Yes. The question is whether, one, people know how to get to it,
Data
or
is good.
two, they know how to read it. So,
That is so true. I think Mr. Braid and John raised a great observation. We're talking about new to the city, and while new could be for 5 years, there are things we still are learning.
20 could be for, and new could be for 20 years.
Yeah,
well,
that's a
it
good
used to be,
point.
I think.
So I think using the real estate report that Jennifer McGillis puts together was the other thought I had when we were saying realtors could be a resource. So,
I mean, if I would just, it's probably at least 1,000 to 1,500 new units that are occupied by new families or new residents each year. If you count housing units, apartments, what have you, there's no way we're going to get all the data that we need to be able to get to all of them, or even just get access to those doors to get to them. So, I mean, it's going to be a lot less. I would say 150 to 200 might be a good estimate for the first 6 months of the program, but it just depends on how much we push at it. But I think there's a lot of new residents every year that are in Norwood, but we won't get to them all.
Okay.
yeah, they have a fair. Well, I think this is good. This is good. I've taken notes. I will reassemble this letter. I'll send it out to our committee members so we know what's going on, and I will also send it to the action team so you know what's going on, and we will get this to the chamber to send to their members ASAP.
Will we put a deadline or expectation for them to reply, since we have a deadline to get the protocol?
Exactly. So I think there's two things. I definitely want to list you as you both as contacts for the prototype. But since this is something we want to test a little longer, I want to make sure they know there's 2 timelines. We'll make it clear.
Right.
What makes sense for you for the prototype? Do you need like a December 31? Could you do a January 15?
I think with the holidays, I would make the deadline in early January.
Will you tell me?
That gives them
The
time.
15th sounds good.
The 15th?
That we'll have another 3 weeks after that, too.
You mentioned the chamber's newsletter. Do you know how we can
All you have to do,
put that announcement in?
you can submit an article, and the editor will then adjust it on the page, move some things around a little bit, and then they go out to all the chamber members, and hopefully it's shared amongst their staff. to increase their readability.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, but I think it would be a good thing to do that. You know, the other thing that you can do is we could add Norwood Quality of Life to the chamber as a member, and then we would be listed on every single issue. If you've ever seen their newest issue, what it is they have the margin on the outside of the front listing all the members, and then when you open it up inside, there's more listings here and here and here. And I counted several hundred.
So again, I think that's a great recommendation for that steering committee. So I don't know, are you still serving with that group, Lupe?
We're still a member, but no, I stepped off the board
Okay.
to concentrate on things with the organization.
Okay, so I will add that back to the feedback we send to them. I think that's a great idea. I don't know that was not discussed during my time on the committee, but I will make sure that gets back as well.
Do you guys get copies of the newsletter?
No.
You don't? James, you don't get that? Okay.
Can you rectify that?
I do. I mean, I don't know. I never checked. We're gonna add the council members. Probably when we were.
Well, I go to the chamber meetings when they have them every other month. I know in December they
Numbers
just
probably
did
started
an awards.
What did Keith just?
event.
Keith gets the chamber newsletter, although he's not a member,
Okay.
Emails.
and the
Yeah.
email.
Oh, I thought he just like nominated James for something. I thought he just like said, "Hey, James, why don't you do this?"
I mean, I'm just curious because, James,
And I'll
council
s-
I bet you Mr. Braden, I bet you Mr. Mumper's getting your newsletter, so you need to call the chamber.
I'm trying to say.
That might be happening. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I think that concludes discussion. Was there anything else you ladies needed or wanted to ask of us?
I wanted to make clear on the January 15th, were you asking me when we wanted to have the prototype ready or when we wanted the chambers to respond to
When
the
would you like to have
secondary?
the chamber respond?
Oh, no, not the middle of January. No, okay.
No.
I'm glad I said that.
I
Yes,
think
definitely.
early.
Definitely within 2 weeks, if possible. I don't know if they make.
I don't
it
have
just takes an
any
email,
insight
if
into
that's
their
possible.
communication
The issue-
timeline.
Right.
The
What
issue
do you
with that
think,
is
Lupe?
that she would have to have the board approve doing this project. In other words, she would be engaging the chamber to approve their involvement and their
Right.
So that's
support.
already happened.
But they
So
already,
that's why-
they already have that piece.
They already
yeah,
have
I just don't know
approved
when the
that?
newsletter goes out. So how about I will do this. I will make sure it's clear. You want this as soon. You want any responsiveness from the individual members who want to
Who
donate
wants to
something
participate, Right.
Okay, that's
as
a
soon
different
as
issue.
possible.
As soon
Yeah.
as possible.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Perfect.
Yes, definitely.
That sounds great. Thank you, ladies,
Yes,
for
thank
being
you for being
here.
here.
thank you.
It's great to see this topic keep moving forward. Glad that there's a lot of energy around it. So our last topic of the evening, we are going to be revisiting the Community Reinvestment
Thanks for being here, Jim.
Area Act process. And our law director, Keith Moore, is going to come and join us. So,
The Honorable Keith Moore.
let's see here. Does this really go back to July?
I'm gonna say yes.
I mean, that's what this says.
Which page
Okay,
are you talking about specifically?
so, one moment. Let me get my bearings.
Going back.
In September, this committee discussed an application for, we discussed a memo regarding an application for,
Well, regarding a potential application. There was no application made.
let me start again. Thank you, James. In September, I think it was September, is that right? I think it was. I think that's the truth that I'm telling. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was August.
Either way.
I'm going to say in a previous meeting of council,
That
We-
was August 14th is when the letter came to council.
And we were in session that day, is what I
That
think.
session, right,
Okay.
yes. That's
So
when the first came to council.
we were notified in August that there was a memo sent from the building department to the mayor, and it was received and filed by council, and then the topic, which is 3730 Montgomery Road, was referred to our committee. The reason being, there's state law and a Norwood program, if you will, that requires, generically speaking, the Community Development Committee to review any applications for tax abatement as it relates to, in this case, a commercial property. So, with the help of the law department, after our initial committee discussion, we received some information, as in what does the current Norwood ordinances and what does state law say is our role, our responsibility, our authority. And so what, with Mr. Braden's help, what I shared with the committee today are a couple of things that we received but have yet to meet and discuss. One is, these were developed, by the law director, Keith Moore. One says the CRA process, the other says CRA process responsibility by office. So thankfully, these are a resource to help us know as a committee what's our part. So I'd like to kind of talk through maybe responsibility by office would be most clear. Anybody have a preference? Because when we met, this process was not clear to me. And that's why we kind of heard some things, but tabled the conversation until we learned some things.
Yeah,
And do you have a preference for which one we go through?
I would say actually looking at the CRA process beginning might be the best. That way people know exactly.
That sounds
which,
good. We'll do some education as we go. So I think everybody here has a copy of this. I'm actually going to ask, Mr. Moore, would you mind guiding us through this?
Sure. It's a little circular.
We like circular.
Well, because at the end of it, in theory, the city at the beginning of the process, when this was first set up, there should be, and as far as somebody submitting an application, there should be in place the Tax Incentive Review Council, which is in place and does meet every year. They have not reviewed the CRAs, the commercial CRAs, which they're supposed to do.
Do we know why that is?
I think it was just never presented. We passed the ordinance, and I think at the time we were doing it because the Hamilton County Development Corporation, they were pushing this idea because they wanted to use it in order to upgrade their buildings. And after that, I'm not sure when the first one after that was, but I think it kind of sat idle for a while, but then people started submitting applications. So we get the applications that are submitted, we get requests from the county, we get requests from whatever to, okay, this is the paperwork we need in order to do this. And so Jerry Stoker has submitted reports and things like that. And so I think just it was never, nobody sat down and thought, oh, here's the steps we need to run through to do this. It's a compliance thing. And to be honest, the way the city operates, it would be nice to have just a corporate compliance officer in the city of Norwood to make sure that all of the little boxes are checked and all of the things that are supposed to happen, because it tends to be a little piecemeal.
So can I just interject for one moment?
Yeah.
You just used a big phrase, a corporate compliance officer. I just want to make it clear, we don't have one, is what you were just saying.
No, we don't.
And that is the
right.
person that could potentially function, A, to educate the public, B, to educate council, and C, do what you did, which was pull together a list of what we're accountable to do by law.
For 100 different things. I mean, the
Exactly.
health
Okay,
department
I just want
does
to make
things,
sure
Public
there's an
Works does things,
understanding
right,
of
and it's
what
like,
you
right,
just said
yeah.
we don't have,
There's things that fall through
and
the
why
cracks.
it would be so helpful to assist us in doing this part of our work.
Right.
So thank you
Sure.
for
And
helping.
it covers, and there are a lot of things that end up funneling to my office when somebody becomes aware, oh, we're supposed to do, what do we do? And
Yeah.
and it's things that you think would have been done at some point, but things are complicated. Being a city is an incredibly complicated endeavor,
So
and we
just-
don't have the manpower in a lot of ways. So
A point of clarity, when you say a corporate compliance officer would be helpful, from your estimation, because you just said hundreds of things, is this like the city would benefit from someone doing this only if they did it full-time, or even if we hire someone to do this part-time?
Well, the hard part would be dividing it up, because some of it's human resources, some of it is police things that need to be handled, it's HIPAA, it's health department stuff, it's, testing the swimming pools, it's the filings you need to do for bonds that have been issued, the annual kinds of filing. There's just a whole lot of different pieces of a whole lot of different things. There's different reports that need to go places, and there are people in larger corporations in particular that just, and we are on more of a small business model.
Right, okay. Did
So-
you have anything on that specific part?
I was gonna say, I mean, I could see this corporate compliance officer being paired with the human resources director rolled together, and they wouldn't actually be. So this person, I would think, in our city now, like in big corporations, the corporate compliance people actually are the final person before it gets submitted. They review it, but I would think for us, they would just ensure that the things are actually happening. So they might, check every once a month. They'll check Dale's logs that he's checking, doing the water checks or what have you, or whatever all these things are that. Do something that they'll check to make sure that these annual reports are getting
Yeah.
created. So yeah, I agree.
Right, and I'll just say that Norwood in a long time worked on, there have been people that work for the city that just developed the knowledge and they just did it, and then when they leave,
Right,
it's hard to pass all of
Yeah.
that on after they
So-
got 20, 25 years. And a lot of that time, it's just the way cities are, from the 80s to today, it's, okay, this year the state's added this requirement, and then 2 years later the feds have added this requirement, and then Hamilton County's added this, and then the state adds this, and then you know what I mean? It's like things get added on over time,
yeah.
and it's just, there's a lot of things that just, and this is one of those, the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council just kind of fell through the cracks.
Thank you. I know it probably felt like a bunny trail to people watching, but it's, I think, really critical to me that people understand, that we understand. We are asked to do things by laws that are probably here right in Norwood, and we're not always trained on how many revisions have there been since it was created.
Right.
We have a project that's been in place for I don't know how many years to update all our ordinances and make sure that there's some continuity in terms of where you find things. And one thing that's been discussed, it came up in finance, budget, and audit the other day, and I think it's kind of come up in shades in this conversation too, that some type of procedure manual. Like once a committee is established, these are the things the committee is responsible for doing. That isn't just based on what we think are important goals, but is based on over the last 100 years, these are things the city has said it would do. So I just want to put some context around that. We're not just talking to be talking, but trying to create understanding of why going through this right now really is helping us do what we're required to do better. So I know you started at the end, you said it was circular. We do have a tax incentive review council, but historically, it was not reviewing the CRA agreements, which it should be doing.
Right.
Okay, and some of that probably had to do with the fact the ordinance was started in 2009, but no request of CRAs really came in for some time.
I think that's the case. And I will also say that oddly enough, the way that it's structured in the statute, they're supposed to review them, and other communities will just submit the information, but there's no requirement in the statutes or the ordinances for anybody for the city to submit information about commercial CRAs to the Tax Incentive Review Committee or Tax Incentive Review Council, but they are required to respond to requests for information from the Tax Incentive Review Council. So technically, the burden is on that council to request the information to review. I'm not sure how in the world anyone ever would have communicated that to them on the basis of an ordinance that was passed. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing that falls through the cracks. So yeah, that's the thing that this next year, Jerry will submit the list. Here's what we have is ACDC still, I think we signed the Rayham, is urology group, do they still have people there? Well, yes, they do. Okay, then we're good this year. That kind of thing, because the requirements are not, they have to meet what's in the agreements, and the agreements are pretty, the companies we've signed with have been pretty good, so they've been pretty much good projects for the commercial. And then there's supposed to be a community and reinvestment area housing council that reviews the residential ones. And we don't have one of those. But basically the process is somebody submits a form, it's a one-page form, or you have to add attachments to the plans, but essentially you're getting building permits anyway, so a lot of that should be included. Included in that is like, what's the payroll going to be, what's, these kinds of things. It's the application from a business is, which includes, I think, apartment buildings, 4 units or higher, counts under commercial. If they're going to do a project that's going to involve more than $75,000 or more in new construction or rehabilitation, they're eligible for this. They submit the application. The housing officer, we notify the school districts, Norwood and Great Oaks.
Can you touch on that for just a moment? Why,
Sure.
why does this process include the school districts?
Because when we give a tax abatement, it affects their bottom line.
And so we have to get their approval for any projects over,
If it's, to get an abatement of more than 49%, they have to agree. They have to be a part of the agreement.
agree, and
The
they
school
have
board,
to
right.
agree before council can agree.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that's known,
That's right.
part of the process.
Right. Just 49% or less, I think it's 49 or less, maybe
It is.
50 or less. Okay,
Yes, we
49% or
have it.
less is council approves, does not need school board approval to do that. But we are supposed to send them notice. Any commercial ones, the application, or at least the project, we've done it a couple different ways where the developer comes to the Economic Development Committee or whatever the current name of it is to say, here's what I want to do, what do you think? And sometimes that's involved with the PUD approval, and they just, come to the committee ahead of time. Sometimes we've gotten to the point we've got an agreement, or the draft agreement anyway, that then comes to this committee. This committee has to approve it first, and then it would go to council to be approved. There are, it's been a while since I looked at this, but that's the basic process. That has to be, the agreement has to be approved by council before construction begins. And
So-
that was one of the issues we had over the summer, is like, at what point does construction begin?
And who makes that determination?
The initial application has to be approved by the building commissioner, or he's got a different title, but it's under the ordinances statute, but it's the building commissioner. Because if you come in and you want, I'm going to do $300 a project, I want a tax abatement. No, you don't meet the requirements, and it's not going to go any further. So essentially, that's the beginning of it. And as far as an interpretation question like that, in theory, any decision of the building commissioner can be appealed to the zoning board. Any decision on this that somebody doesn't like that the building commissioner makes is appealable to the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council.
For residential only?
Yeah, that's right. I think that is for residential only.
So this is an
Yeah,
ordinance.
anyone aggrieved by the process can appeal here.
Which page are you on?
I'm on the very last page of the
I
CRA
see.
process.
Yeah, so 4. So any person who can challenge a valuation under ORC 5715.19 can file complaint with housing officer challenging the continued exemption of CRA property. Is that the one?
No, it's here's appeals. The Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council, here's appeals under 3735.70, which is anyone aggrieved by the CRA process.
And this is the council that needs to be created.
Correct.
All right, now let me flip back, because I thought these were different processes depending on the type of property.
If it's residential, the building commissioner does it. It doesn't
But
come
the
to
appeal
council.
process would go through the housing council.
It would go, yeah, in theory, anyone aggrieved can appeal to the housing council. Anyone aggrieved by the process.
Whether it's residential or commercial.
The statute says anyone aggrieved, so.
Okay, that's helpful. I think that that was kind of a gray spot in the roles and determinations. Can you speak for just a moment? I'm on page 1 of the process under fees.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an application fee of $750 and an annual monitoring fee of 1% of the taxes abated, max at $2,500, minimum $500. It's supposed to be deposited into Fund 41.
Mm-hmm.
It says that it pays for CRA compliance and for Tax Incentive Review Council. What exactly does that cover?
As far as what those costs would be, off the top of my head, I mean, I don't really know. It would be,
From the
it would
ordinance
be
side, I didn't
office
see anything.
expenses. It would be, if we have to hire a professional to do something in theory, it could be, I mean, copies. It's just to fund the operation of the process. So
So
I don't know. I have not studied that in any real detail.
I think what I'm just trying to clarify, I mean, I know we could audit the fund, but I guess what I'm trying to understand is there anything definitive in the ordinances you were able to review that describes what kind of costs might be associated with actually executing this?
I'm not sure if that's is that in the ordinance or is that the statute? Because I've got the sites for this stuff. I think that no, I guess it is in the ordinance, but it incorporates the Ohio Administrative Code and so
okay.
specifically, I don't know. I mean, because depends on what it is. There's parts of TIFs that are, some of the revenues from TIFs are used to pay for the expenses of that. That includes a lot. I mean, that can include legal fees and filing fees and
Okay.
recording fees. For like the PACE energy loan program, that has a board that meets and they have things they do. So there's paper involved, they have professionals, and so that's part of it. I'm not sure what kind of cost there would actually be here, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think we have kind of a general, right, James? We have kind of a general office supplies key in a lot of ways. Brenda orders most of the paper, I think.
Yes.
Kind of thing, so.
So once this process, not once, I think the council approval part, it's clear that happens after the committee review.
Correct.
The committee review happens after the housing officer has said this is a eligible application.
It makes sense to do it that way, yeah.
Okay. There's some other timelines in here that made me think this is a really long process. Like relocation. If a company or someone is moving from a place and like taking their operations, they have to give 30 days notice?
Well, no, we have to give 30 days notice as a city before a public meeting can happen where that company is being discussed. So essentially we have to give 30 days notice to the city that they could be moving
Got
from.
it. We give notice. That was definitely confusing to me, but kind of long. So if we're giving notice to
Like,
Little Town, USA, we're doing that 30 days before we talk about it, but sometime after we've been notified that this is an eligible application for ABC company.
In theory, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just, we've not done it. I'm just trying to figure out how it's
Right.
supposed to go. 'Cause
yes,
if I
that's
don't
in
know,
the in the
like-
statute,
Yes.
that's what's supposed to happen.
Okay, and then
Right, but we're all supposed to give,
14.
how much notice? 14 days to the Great Oaks? Yeah, 14 days before we send it. No, that's for the residential. So it goes to them 14 days before it goes to the county auditor. The commercials, I remember driving up to Great Oaks twice for a CRA that never happened because they had to
give
have
it
notice, so many days before the meeting at which it was going to be considered. And then we changed it, so we had to do it again.
So this was really helpful. Any other questions about the process or this committee's part in the process or council's part in the process?
I definitely had a few questions, if you don't mind.
Go for
So
it.
the reporting and monitoring, I mean, this is something, so the council, since I've been on council, we have not approved a CRA agreement with a company since I've been here. And so, I haven't done as much research prior to all the fiasco that happened back in August and September. I hadn't done as much research on CRA agreements because we haven't had any that have come up. It hasn't been something that's I've focused on. But now that we have had one that comes up, and now that Leslie's brought to our attention and the law department about the reporting and monitoring, I do want to make sure that we have a plan for how we're going to make sure this happens. So, is there an annual report that's, I'm assuming no because I haven't seen it, but is there an annual report that has been created by March 31st of each year by either Jerry, whoever, I don't know who would do it, but
So the tax
For the
incentive,
commercial side, no. He has submitted reports on the residential side.
and you have a list of those.
I have one, he sent me one from 2016, and there are not many on this. I suspect there are more since 2016, but I may be wrong.
So council doesn't ever, we don't touch the housing ones.
The report, in theory, is supposed to, on the residential, is supposed to come from the Community and Reinvestment Area Housing Council.
Okay. So do we have so I know that we're going to work on, through council, appointing the housing council, now that we know that it needs to exist. So they're the ones that are going to create the report for the housing part of it. Okay.
I would say as a practical matter, what Jerry does will be the basis of that.
But the Tax Incentive Review Council, which is, I think, the specific one I was asking about before, does exist.
Yes.
And I did ask for a copy of the report. I've yet to receive it. But it was filed for this past year. My understanding after talking to a member is that they literally do their one meeting annually, like check a box. We had the meeting, we turned in the report, and then don't have any other obligations around how that functions because they're part of a larger entity and the other members typically carry the work project.
Yeah, basically, the way the project works is there's a day set aside, and there will be like 6 or 7 communities there, and there are 2 people from the county that sit on every single one. And then it's like, okay, Silverton, you're up. And it's like they look at the enterprise zone agreements, and they look at the CRAs, and I don't remember if they may do the TIFs as well, and say, okay, good, check. And then Blue Ash, you're up. And then they come up and they do it. And it's just, it goes through. They spend that's what they do for the day. And so Norwood, you're up. And so they come up and they look at the things that are there. Yep. Rookwood's still there. And, you know,
So it's not,
these people are still there. So we're good. All right, thanks.
what I've concluded from reading and talking to folks in Norwood and at the county is that it's not a very demanding position, and it's not one that we necessarily train people to take on. So whoever we nominate, as I've reflected on the need to do that and what we've learned and experienced, I think it needs to be someone we feel like we could work with to get some understanding of what's being reported on this year. Someone who would be supportive of a process, like you were saying, like how do we get notified of this report that's getting filed? And hopefully someone who has an interest in sharing with the public as well, like, hey, here's what's going on for Norwood as it relates to other aspects of the county. Because if we're not, I guess it is a public meeting, but I don't know that, back to our notification conversation about who gets newsletters and who doesn't, I'm not sure that we would normally get notified when it happens. So those are some of my reflections on the anticipated nomination and just what we might want to have in mind. I'm in agreement. We should have some type of process, though.
Let me just take a step back. At the time we were doing this, and I'm trying to recreate this, I think at the time we were also in the process of looking at least the initial stages of setting up a Norwood Reinvestment Corporation and a different committee to oversee rental certificates and all that kind of thing. And I think that this may have collapsed under the weight of that, and that's why. It just occurred to me I think that may have been within that realm, and the idea was, oh, we'll have this community reinvestment area housing council, and it can also do it could be a housing council. It'd be very cool, and so that may be why, at least on that aspect, it didn't happen.
How long ago was that?
2009, 2010. The death throes were my last year on council. I know that. I have vivid recollections of that.
Med Pace getting ready to leave. It's like, yeah, just bad time, crazy time, I'm sure.
Well, yeah.
Which pool can we close next? You know, what can we do?
So that was, I think what you were just saying is there was an effort to make a housing council that would kind of take on that piece and other things.
Maybe. It might be that it was going to be incorporated into that, but maybe not.
I mean, either way, it really doesn't, I guess, doesn't
At
matter
this point, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get it fixed now that we know about it.
Oh, absolutely. I was asking more from the standpoint of there might be some other features of service and accountability that are still on the table. That's why I was asking. Not that this won't get resolved. I have confidence it will.
Excellent.
Did you have other questions on the reporting and monitoring?
Nope, I will be following up though, just to make sure that once we get that authority or the group established, that we can ensure that we get that. I think that's going to be helpful to know. And I really do think that this commission thing is going to be helpful for residents then to know that, hey, I'm getting ready to do a renovation on my house. I can actually apply for something like that. I think right now it's kind of, people think only the big businesses can get help, but
Right. Well, I will say when people come in to do and they submit and they come in, I've got plans. I'm going to do this $100,000 rehab, this $50,000 rehab. I know the building department is saying, "Hey, here's the application."
good.
Any other thoughts or questions on this or the responsibility by office document? John, you got anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I think just my last question would be any recommendation in terms of characteristics, skills that we should have in mind when we think about nominating folks to serve on the.
The way I envision, in theory, that the committee is supposed to go and inspect every one of the residential parcels. I'm assuming that's going to be that they're going to rely on the building department for the bulk of the work, and so it could be a couple of things. It could be either, okay, here's the thing we got, everything looks good, and maybe I'll drive by a few or check, whatever, and okay, this looks good, and we'll submit the report. It may be a much more active, and so it kind of depends on what the role that you see as far as, because there's a role here. I mean, I'm sitting on this thing, I'm looking at all these people that are coming in, all these people that are rehabbing the residential property. I would, what are some other steps we can jump in and maybe promote more of that? It just depends on what you need somebody who can, read a spreadsheet. I think maybe the very bottom basic kind of requirement, because that's basically what the report is going to be submitted as.
Uses email.
And uses email kind of thing. But I mean, it just kind of depends on what they and what you kind of envision. There are some things, the Tax Incentive Review Committee is one where, you're required to have somebody appointed to this, or the Tax Appeals Board. You're required to have somebody appointed to that. But there's just not that much to it. Or the fire, I'm trying to think, there's a member of council's on the fire, you can appeal a citation from the fire department. It may just be for sprinklers. If you get an order to put sprinklers in, and there's a board that is, and I was there's a member of council, I think, that's automatically on that. And so there are some offices where you just need to appoint somebody, and they'll sit there, and they're decent people, and they'll use a little common sense, and that's about it. And then there's other things like the Civil Service Commission, that involves a lot of work, and you gotta have people that are very serious about it and willing to put in the time and the effort. So it just kind of depends on what you want this to be. And just to reiterate, council appoints 2, the mayor appoints 2, the planning commission appoints 1, and then those 5 people appoint 2 more people.
Which is crazy.
Who have to be Norwood residents.
Yeah, I think so.
That's
Yeah.
what it says.
The two that the 5 appoint have to be Norwood residents.
Yes,
Right.
that's true. Just want to make sure that was clear.
So yeah, when we look at kind of councils to appointments, I mean, I guess we can't control the others, but as far as councils, I'd like to see potentially a real estate agent that lives in Norwood. There's quite a few really good ones that I think would be assets there, and then also somebody that actually does housing development. So it could be the same person, but it could be somebody that either does like rehabs or is building new housing or does just develop stuff in general that kind of understands those complexities that go into that. I personally think having those skills on there would be an asset.
Right. And I would say that it also depends on whether you want them. I want somebody to go, because certainly there's some of this. It's like you get it, if it's owner occupied, you get it, and then, I'm going to split it up, whatever it is, to make sure the property is maintained. The main sure is you want somebody who's aggressively going to go out and make sure anybody that's getting this tax abatement is, by God, they're taking care of the property and doing the things they're supposed to be. It just kind of depends on the philosophy you have, is what that's supposed to do. I mean, my perspective has always been, I'd like to limit it. I like people to be responsible, but if we can give an incentive for people to invest in the property, I'm more than happy to do that, especially since all of Cincinnati is a CRA area. So all of the property that surrounds Norwood has this potential tax benefit available. So in order to spur new housing, in order to spur updated housing, whatever we can do, as far as I'm concerned. It's my philosophy, but I know there's people that have a very different philosophy on that. So
James, what about a realtor who works in Norwood but doesn't live here?
I'd say potentially. I mean, I feel like there's enough people that live here, because the thing about living here is that you're seeing a lot of these kind of properties every day. You're driving around, even because if you're a realtor that kind of works here, yeah, maybe you have clients see Norwood House. It's one of every 10 of them that you show might be a Norwood House. You know, some people that it could be a higher percentage, but living here every day and being involved, and I know that there's some people out there that exactly what Keith was saying. I mean, if you don't keep your property kept, and that's a reason why you could lose your CRA. And I know that there's people out there that would be willing to, they're not going to approve these every single year. They're going to go check, or they're going to know just because they're already on those streets, and they're going to know the problem properties and because they live here. So I would always have a preference of having a Norwood resident first, but if there is a qualified application or qualified person, I mean, I'm willing to consider it, but I think there's enough good people here that we could find already.
The reason I appreciate that, part of what I was imagining is there could be some value to having an outside Norwood perspective on what housing looks like, to keep the point, like, well, not point, but observation. Like, we're surrounded by another municipality, and I think some type of comparative lens could be helpful, especially since we do know at least 2 people will be Norwood residents. Not to say there aren't residents who we couldn't appoint, but I was just curious, like, what that distinction was for you. And I can think of at least 2 real estate agents who are deeply invested in Norwood but don't live here. So I'm just thinking about other perspectives. Any other thoughts or questions on this? I'm grateful, Mr. Moore, for your efforts to bring this together. I would like to suggest that when we report out on this meeting for this specific topic, and then I'll kind of recap going towards the top of our agenda today, that we include, through our correspondence with the law department, we've noted that this committee was never provided an application to review, so we don't have any position on any type of request. I think additionally, going back to our previous topic, as it relates to the bags, we're going to reformat our original requests to include the input from residents around the welcome bag, make sure that gets to the chamber in a timely manner, and then, keep working as a committee and thinking about how we might crowdsource around a new name for the website for the city, as well as features to be a part of phase 1 and or phase 2 as monies are available in the recovery plan.
Can you go back what you just said? A new what for the city?
Did I say name?
You did say name, yes.
As it related to the development of a website, I'm so sorry. I was going backwards, topic by topic, domain name.
I didn't want anybody to freak out at home.
To be clear,
yes, okay,
I think it would be helpful for this committee to think with residents on what could be the future name of a domain name for the city's website.
Perfect.
So, any thoughts, alterations, considerations for what we might report out?
Norwood O.
Norwood
Exclamation
O.
point. That's not terrible.
I will include that example in the report out.
Yeah, you cannot use an exclamation point in the domain name. However, I would say that it's very fascinating. If somebody could draw something up, I would be very entertained to see
Norwood O.
OH.
Alrighty, well, without further ado, thank you all for being here. This concludes our meeting.